Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Committed Critics, a pop culture podcast where we're not only committed to our opinions, but also each other.
Aww.
I'm Kevin Lau.
I'm Ryan Davis.
I'm Zachary Wright.
Oh my God. And we got two other people on the show from another show called The All New 52. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Absolutely. I'm Caleb. I never get introduced myself on All New 52, so I'm taking full advantage of it here.
I'm Joe, and I also, I always get to introduce myself and Caleb, so same as normal.
I want to give a quick shout out to Caleb because he's on our episode for the Veggie Tales, and it currently is sitting at 400 views on YouTube.
Wow. Okay.
We're going to become a VeggieTales podcast now. Don't worry about it.
Whenever you want me back to talk about the Toy You Save Christmas, I'm here for it.
Oh my God.
Oh, Lord.
Yes. But so, yeah, for those of us who don't know what the All New 52 is, Joe, do you mind giving us a quick synopsis?
Yeah, me and Caleb like comics, so we talk about comics with each other from new comics, some older comics, some indies, even some manga that I throw into the mix, and we just talk about it, and that's about it. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, no, it's a very great show. I absolutely have fun. I have a lot of fun listening to it because you have a good system of you each challenge each other to like read a comic book, then you discuss it. So like you can always know what to look forward to. It's a really great show. I highly recommend. I don't think I've ever mentioned it on this show here, but I definitely talked about it in our Let's Plays a couple episodes ago. But yeah,
so
thanks for that.
Yeah, no problem. So now, see, as you guys are probably wondering, like, oh man, are we talking about comic books today? Yes, we're talking about a special comic book. Well, I'm not sure about special, but a singular comic book today called Radiant Black, published through Image Comics and created by Kyle Higgins and Marcelo Costa. A quick synopsis on Radiant Black. I don't know if anyone else wants to chime in, but basically it's Power Rangers for adults.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll give you that.
It's it follows the story of 30-year-old Nathan Burnett, who is struggling to become an author and has to move back home with his family. But during his time back in his hometown with his friend Marshall, they come across a mini black hole that grants Nathan the powers of a radiant black. So now he has the powers of the black hole. He can shoot lasers from his hands. He can control gravity. He can fly. It's really cool, and the artwork's really fantastic. But so before we dive into more of what the story is about, let's give our quick spoiler-free thoughts on Radiant Black. Zach, you want to kick us off?
Yo, this shit was rad.
Oh my.
This reminded me how much I enjoy comic books because I've not read a comic book series since Ryan let me borrow his Red Hood and the Outlaws volumes. And I was sitting there reading it it came in the mail on from Amazon. I know I had to buy it from Amazon. I'm so sorry. But I had to read it before this episode came out. So it came here on Thursday. I think I read it for like 2 hours, and I was already on like issue 4 or 5, and then I went to work and finished it at work on break. I binge read the heck out of it, and I enjoyed every minute of it. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Ryan?
I enjoyed it, but I definitely needed more. For me, it's kind of like how I felt about the first volume of Invincible, where it's a cool concept, but I can't say it's my new favorite thing unless I see volume 2 and stuff starts to ramp up, because I liked it, but I was like, okay, cool. Next, but the artwork is phenomenal. I will give it that.
I dare say this is better than the first volume of Invincible.
I would agree.
So this funny you mentioned Invincible.
I agree that this is off to a stronger start than Invincible. Guys, I don't think we can mention Invincible spoilers in front of Joe, because I think...
Oh, no, I know nothing. Please don't.
Oh, my God. I won't say anything.
I think he's only read the first volume, if I remember correctly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know the twist.
I do know the twist. I couldn't avoid that.
Okay. Well, Joe, what are your spoiler-free thoughts on Radiant Black?
It's like a lot of indies that I've read, but it has some more relatable parts that gives it a nice change compared to those other indies. Mm-hmm. But its twist I have thoughts about it.
It's certainly a twist. What about you, Caleb?
I think that it sticks out because of how good its art is. I think if you were going over the indie comics at your local shop, this would definitely stick out with some of the best art in that section. I think it sets you up to think it's more generic than it's going to be.
Yeah.
And it subverts that pretty early on. I'm not sure if it does that early enough to draw people in, though.
I do like how the artwork is very clean. Like, it looks very clean.
Yeah, and then my quick spoiler-free thoughts before we dive into spoilers is it hits all the right notes for me as someone who loves the concept of Power Rangers, but not so much the actual Power Rangers material. Besides, like, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic, which is also by Kyle Higgins. Kyle Higgins wrote the first 50 issues. Kyle Higgins has also written New 52 Nightwing, which is how I discovered him, and which eventually led me to discovering this comic. But yeah, no, I really love and I should also point out that we're talking about the first volume of Radiant Black. So issues 1 through 6, I collect the floppies as the issues come out. So I'm just one issue ahead of everyone else here, unless Joe and Caleb got issue 7 without telling me.
No, we stopped at 6.
We stuck to the trade.
Cool.
Gotcha. Cool. So yeah, I won't say anything beyond issue 6. But now, as we dive into spoilers, we're going to talk about one thing we liked about Radiant Black. Ryan, did you want to kick us off?
I guess I can. Hold on. Give me a second. Okay, so one thing I did kind of like about it was the thing I liked about it is that the suit could be evil or connected to a darker force. Plus the fact that each suit has their own power, as we kind of seen. I don't know what the two people's powers are that we saw at the end of the 5th issue.
Yeah.
But yeah. Do you want? I can give you answers if you want it.
Don't.
It's not a spoiler.
I'll keep it surprise for me. But I enjoyed knowing Satomi. I'm gonna call her Bright Red instead of Radiant Black. But I like that she wasn't evil, and I kind of would rather follow her story given how the twist affects the story. Because I also liked how it paralleled with Nathan's book he was writing at the time, and I think it would have been cool if they actually connected or like had talked, outside of beating each other up.
Right.
Gotcha.
But lo and behold, that ain't happening anymore.
Speaking of the twist, Zach, did you want to give your spoiler-filled thoughts on the one thing you liked? And I should emphasize spoiler.
This is huge spoiler. I like the switch because Nathan gets very hurt, and so his friend Marshall takes on the Radiant Black.
Very hurt is one way of putting it.
Orb, yeah. Like hospitalized in a coma. Don't know if he'll make it, kind of hurt. So his friend Marshall takes over as the superhero and goes after, we'll call her Bright Red, like Ryan said. I wasn't expecting it. It makes me super excited to see where it goes in the future because I haven't really seen that type of like twist before so soon in an origin story for a superhero. It was something different, something I haven't really seen. So that's why I enjoyed it a lot. I love the color scheming of Radiant Black. Like the blue and the black looks really slick. Even the black and the red looks really slick on Satomi. This whole first volume is a great first act. Like Kevin and I talked about this earlier off screen.
How about you, Caleb? What's one thing you liked about Radiant Black?
So the thing that sticks out to me is the art is just, like you said, Zach, it's very clean. I think it has these nice, very bold colors. And it's able to have different color schemes throughout what's going on, whether that be what time of day it is or what character we're following that I think match what's going on. I also really like the character designs. They aren't overly complicated and they're super distinct. I do think that occasionally the composition can be a little bit boring, but usually that's only in the dialogue scenes. Usually in the action scenes, it conveys the motion really well.
Right. And yeah, we kind of building off of that a little bit. Like the artwork is very iconic. Like the suit's very iconic. They really found something where if you can see it from far away, you actually know what you're looking at. You're like, oh, like that's a Radiant Black thing, like all the way over there.
Like bold is a great word, Caleb. It's very bold. Like all the colors. There's not a color I don't like. This issue uses. Like I love colors. Like I freaking love colors, man.
So the illustrator Marcelo Costa, he was originally a colorist for the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic, but he
Really?
also does illustrations as well. So this is his first time illustrating a comic book.
Interesting. I think that tracks, because you think Mighty Morphin, you think of like Saturday Morning, bright colors and that. He's able to carry that over into a much more mature story, but still keep that kind of same attitude with the colors.
Right. What about you, Joe? What's one thing you liked?
I thought Nathan was a really good, relatable character who I got super invested in around issue 3. Is that when you read like excerpts of his novel that he's working on?
Yeah.
I thought that was a great way to get in his head.
He was
As
very
just like
relatable.
as a struggling creative who's like trying to live his dream. I think that's something like a lot of people our age can relate to, with like the age of the internet and people like being able to pursue their dreams more easily. Which is why that twist bugged me, because the Switch, I'm not as invested in that character. But when it went to Satomi's point of view, I thought she was just as relatable. With like, man, I can easily see someone getting in that situation. So being able to relate to the character so easily, I think Higgins has a good grasp on like modern day issues that young people come across. And maybe not everybody gets to turn into a superhero to get a new driving force, but he definitely has the motivation there.
I mean, yeah, totally. And then kind of like getting that relatability and meshing with the superhero genre, like the whole thing with like issue 2 when Satomi steals his car and he's like, no, I can't get my car destroyed because if my car gets destroyed, I'm out of a job.
Right.
Like that's very fun, and also, but it's also very relatable. It's almost like has that Spider-Man feeling to it, where he's trying to balance his superhero life and personal life, and like one directly affects the other.
Well, I also liked his family, like his relationship with other people was also what gave me like his relationship with his dad, his relationship even with like the cops who were just kind of like, yeah, we won't like rat you out because you like at least were decent enough to help us out. And like even his relationship with that family he just helped in issue 3. Like he's just like, yeah, I don't know how to fix a tire, but I can take it still. Like I don't know, I enjoy him much more than I enjoy the Switch.
Right. Well, and to kind of we'll talk about the Switch a little bit more because I know you guys have some qualms with it, but I'll give my 2 cents on it later. For now, before we head into break, I want to say that one thing I did like was I really love the panel layout of this series. Like this is one of the best panel layouts I've seen in a comic book, where you really you understand, like you said, Caleb, you really feel the motion of the action scenes, especially like the fight in issue 4. When Nathan gets tossed, but then he transforms, then he lands, and then you get like a close up of his eyes narrowing. Like that's a really like that panel layout. I could feel the motion as I read it, and it kind of like gave me goosebumps a little bit, especially now talking about it.
Yeah.
But it's your eyes know exactly where to go for the next part of the story. You're not lost of like, oh, like do I start from the top of the page? Do I start at the bottom of the page?
Right.
Like no, it's like it's left to right, or you follow a thread of action to get to continue the story.
To add to that, Kevin, real
Really
quick before we go to break, like I think I'm the most novice like comic book reader compared to you four. So yeah, I agree with that. That panel layout was very easy to read. So sometimes when I read comics, I'm like, am I reading the right thing before the right other thing first? I'm like, okay, cool. I did not have that problem with this comic book at all. Yeah.
Nice.
We're
going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about one thing we didn't like and our final thoughts on Radiant Black. See you in a bit. Starting a podcast? Try a Podbean Unlimited hosting plan. It's what we use here at Committed Critics, giving us the opportunity to have our show on Pandora, iHeartRadio, and even Spotify. You can get your first month of unlimited hosting for free on us by going to podbean.com/committedcrits, just like our Twitter, or by clicking the link in the description. Podbean, the easiest, most affordable option to get started in podcasting.
Don't you wish there was a pop culture review site that appealed to cinephiles, both professional and casual? Well, look no further than crpwrites.com. New content such as movie and TV reviews, film essays, and more are released every week by writers who crave for movies like every moviegoer craves for popcorn. CRP Writes is dedicated to making sure no one is wasting time or money where they shouldn't be. After all, you have to be able to buy your popcorn and eat it too. CRPWrites.com. Casual reviews with purpose since 2018.
And welcome back to Committed Critics as we continue our talk with Radiant Black with our friends Caleb and Joe from the all-new 52. If you haven't heard about their show yet, even if you talked about in the first half of this episode, you be sure to check out their show and linked in the description. But right now, as we continue our talk with Radiant Black, we can talk about one thing we didn't like. And Zach, did you want to kick us off on that?
Yeah, I'll kick us off because it's really not a lot. Like, I can't think of much. Nathan's origin's pretty on point with me. Like, I agree with Joe. It's very relatable. I sympathize with Nathan, so not trying to get too personal, but that feeling of failure is like one of my greatest fears too. But yeah, I can't really think, like, Marshall is kind of a bland character, but like that wait to see what Marshall will become. Like, I prefer a hero I don't like becoming a hero. Like, that journey of not liking him to liking him is way more like impactful. Like, look at like Prince Zuko from Avatar, for example. He goes from someone you don't like into one of the best characters of the show. So I'm excited to see where that will go with Marshall.
How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I don't like the switch of Marshall getting the powers. One, because I was just starting to get interested in Nathan, and then boom, a building drops on him and he gets in a coma. And two, Marshall makes me want to choke the life out of him. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I know there's always the best friend who like finds out about the superpowers and he's like supportive of them, and you're like, oh, you can do this, this, and this, like Ned in the Spider-Man movies. Love Ned. Marshall is like Ned if he was an ass. Like, I'm sorry. Like, he's just so annoying. I can't stand him.
Boo! It's a bad reason. He's fine. He'll be all right.
Marshall's a pro.
I'm just like, I don't want. I wish, because I was hoping that it would be a fake out and he wouldn't actually keep the powers, but I think he's going to actually keep the powers. Like, they're not going to go back to Nathan, and that's what my biggest fear is, that Nathan will not have the powers again, or that if he does, or he'll become a villain or something. And I'm just like, I don't want that. I don't want Marshall to be the hero of this story. Marshall could have had the building drop on him, and I would not have cared. But
I will say, I think if this helps abate your fear, I don't think they would have had the character switch to, is it Satomi? Is that her name?
Yes.
Yeah, Satomi.
I don't think we would have had that if Marshall's going to be the hero. I think that switch to her is going to position her for at least the next trade, the next 6-issue arc, to be the hero.
Okay, because that's what that was my next issue 6 is where I kind of was like, okay, I'm interested as finding out Satomi's story and everything. Although they did not draw Bright Red as a female in all those earlier shots. It was definitely
it's a distinct change.
I was like, that definitely looked like a guy, and now all of a sudden, like, and then you see in her issue, and she's like, yeah, Bright Red looks a whole lot more petite, and I was like, yeah, that does not look like.
So there's actually a reason to that, and I know it was kind of hard to tell for me the first time I read issue 6, but so Satomi's powers is able to tear things apart and gain that mass. So what she does before she robs a bank is take apart a car engine, and she uses that mass to disguise herself to look like a guy.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at that right now. And I'm like, I see that. Okay.
I know it was kind of hard to tell. Like, I was even confused at first when I read through it, and I also watched an interview as well, and then, so it's like with the writer, I was like, oh yeah, I can see it now. So
okay, that makes much more sense.
So yeah, so she's disguising herself as a dude to really throw people off her trail.
Gotcha.
All right. How about Kayla? What's one thing you didn't like about Radiant Black?
So I don't like Marshall, but I think I don't like Marshall for something we haven't brought up yet, which is his dialogue. Most of us on this episode have gone to film school, so most of us know film bros. And unfortunately, in our darker timelines, most of us probably were film bros at one point. And Marshall is written to be his whole personality is that he knows pop culture. Yeah. And he feels like the kind of person who would gatekeep the person who's trying to get into whatever pop culture that is.
He literally does that at his store.
Yeah, and I think they're trying to make it more self-aware than it is and kind of just failing at it. This is very much a personal taste thing, but there are a lot of these characters in media and they always annoy me. Just because I've met people like them and those people annoy me. So my defense mechanisms kick in. I do like that Marshall does not have the moral standing to be a typical hero. And so that's why I'm kind of okay with the twist. However, I do think the comic loses a lot of goodwill with that character in the first 4 issues.
How about you, Joe?
Yeah, I'm on the same page as Ryan. The twist when it happened, I was happy at first because I'm like, that is risky and ballsy, and I appreciate like the risk it takes to make a twist like that. But then I'm also, oh wait, I liked Nathan. I don't like Marshall. And so, I think I'm mainly on the same page as Ryan, just in the sense that, yeah, I'm not invested at all in Marshall being the hero. But the switch to Satomi did give me a little hope, like, oh, maybe all these black hole heroes / super powered individuals are going to have better stories that I could relate to more so than the new Radiant Black.
I think to add into Caleb's point from earlier, it's gonna be more of like when Satomi takes over as the point of view, it might be more of like a team building like comic book toward like maybe later in the issues. So and like Ryan pointed out, like Nathan's story really mimics Satomi, what she goes through. So I don't think they would have that be there if Nathan wasn't gonna come back in some regard. So I don't think Nathan's gone. Like he's pretty messed up, but I think he isn't like dead yet.
I just don't want
I
him to
have
be the
some
man in the
answers,
chair.
but I don't want to say any of them to spoil it. Unless you
A
guys
fun
want
fact,
me
I don't
to.
know why you said that if you were going to say anything.
Yeah. Because I'm only 1 issue ahead. I know kind of like what's happened. I know generally what's happening up until issue 10 due to like solicitations. But that's general. I don't know like for sure details. But
Gotcha.
but like one thing I don't like is just the wait between each issue. I've been collecting this since issue 1 came out in February, and it's monthly. So and I mean obviously it needs a full month to get done. So I'm not saying like, oh, rush it, give it to me every week. Just more like, oh, I love this. I really do love this series a lot. It's like my main series that I'm like really like, yes, like this is what I'm obsessed with this for right now. And I will say issue 7 is very fun. It does not provide answers, but it does because it's basically the big fight after what we see in issue 5.
Right.
But it is definitely going a very interesting direction. And I think this is a story that's going to be constantly evolving from itself and making sure that doesn't run stale.
Sweet.
On that note, any final thoughts on Radiant Black?
I'll go first. I think it's a great first comic. I think it's a great, fantastic time. Great first indie comic to get into. And I think this is going to be, like, Kevin, to your point where, like, waiting kind of sucks. Like, you're way more into comics than me. So, yeah, it does suck for you. But for me, like, it's going to be like finding an extra $20 in my pocket at the end of every month. I'd be like, oh, yeah, I got Radiant Black to read. This is going to be awesome. Like, 'cause I'm going to do it by volume. So
Right, yeah. You're going to have to wait, like, 6 months for the next volume. So have fun.
Yeah, exactly. I'll wait 6 months, or I'll wait, like, monthly on the issue and just read each issue as it comes out. Like, either way, I'm still finding, like, an extra, like, $5 or $10 in my pocket of content to read each month. So I'm excited, look forward to that. Like, kind of to, like, forget about it and then, like, oh yeah, end of next month, woo, another issue of Radiant Black. Let's go.
Yeah. What about you, Joe?
It's a pretty good start. I agree that's a pretty good first indie comic, because indie comic is like a classification in its own because they have to be so different from the big two. But that twist is going to turn a lot of people off, I feel like. I think it's a good risky twist to take, but they got to nail whatever landing comes after it.
And what about you, Caleb?
I think that the twist is actually what kind of saves it. I just imagine I'm going into the comic store. I already have like 8 comics on my pool list. I'm a little bit tight on cash. Is the first 3 issues of this going to really draw me in and make me want to add that to be like my 9th comic? Probably not. But if once I get to that twist, and if they pay that twist off well, then maybe it would. So it's kind of hard to say just going off of these 6, but I'm definitely more bought into the twist or more bought into the book after the twist than I was before.
I would agree with you, Caleb. Like if this was just Nathan, like if this was just Marshall getting hurt into a coma and then Nathan going on the blood rampage after Satomi, I don't think I would care as much.
Right. Because I mean, like, it's like you mentioned, Zach. It's like, and I was kind of diving into my final thoughts real quick. But don't worry, Ryan, we'll get to you. This like the twist, like with Marshall becoming the new Radiant Black. It's like, you know, it's like I'm familiar with Kyle Higgins' other work. Like I've read his run on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I've read his run on Nightwing and a couple other things he's written. So like, I'm going in trusting the author, seeing from his past work. So like what I'm envisioning is happening is that like I like the twist of Marshall becoming the new Radiant Black because, as we mentioned, Zach, Marshall has a long way to go before he becomes a hero that Nathan was even close. That Nathan was trying to be. Like, you know, there's like the character, like the amount of character development that opportunities that opened up just got way bigger.
Right. Yeah. There's more avenues.
And also, like, you know, when we see him when we're going to see Marshall interact with the rest of them, like, you know, I mean, like we're already seeing with Satomi, she's got an interesting backstory. We don't know the backstory of the other two yet, but like I'm sure they're going to be just as interesting or even more so. And we're going to have to see Marshall like interact with all of that, and see how that affects him as the series goes on. As of right now, that the author Kyle Higgins has said that the first 3 years of the comic are already locked in and fully plotted.
Neat.
So that's technically up to issue 36. That's fully like solid and ready to go, pretty much. But yeah, like I said, like I'm trusting the author on this. I really like it. I'm really looking forward to more. How about you, Ryan?
I kind of echo Joe's. If people read it, they're either gonna they might get to that twist and just be like, I'd rather have a bright red comic now, but I'll see. A lot of the
fan base does too.
I'll see where it goes, but I feel like if it doesn't recover from the twist, or if it doesn't, you know, progress that twist, but like more to the point where I don't want to choke the life out of Marshall, then I mean we'll see where it goes.
Sounds good. So Radiant Black, the first volume is out right now. You can get it at any place that sells comic books, including bookstores. And then issue 7 is currently out on shelves. I think issue 7, as of recording this, was just sold out. But then they'll be getting a second printing at the end of September, alongside issue 8. So it's about it's $3.99 an issue. And and the first volume is with Image Comics does this a lot, where their first volumes are only $10. Then the rest of them are going to get up a little bit higher, but I don't know how much second volume is going to cost until it comes out within the next 6 months. Probably $20 most likely. But yeah, this has been Committed Critics, and joining us today was the all new 52. Thank you guys for joining us. And do you guys have anything you want to plug?
I mean, we can just plug our show, All New 52. Like I said earlier, we talk about comics on a bi-weekly basis, sometimes weekly. And we upload on Saturdays. And the Committed Critic Boys will be on our next episode coming out from when you're listening to this upcoming Saturday, September 11th. And we're going to be talking about Spider-Man Life Story.
Ooh.
Very excited for that. That was a comic that I've been wanting to do since the podcast started. So super excited on that one. And
glad I could have encouraged you guys for that one.
Yeah, he gave us the little push we needed. If any of you listening have comic suggestions that you want to send to either me or Joe, you can reach us at the all new 52 podcast at gmail.com. We will take just about anything because our shelves are always running low. And so we're always excited to read something new.
Sounds good. And this has been Committed Critics. You can follow us on Twitter at Committed Crits. It's COMMITTED0RITS. You can follow us on YouTube, Committed Critics, spelled the same there. It is here and everywhere else. And you can also support us on Patreon, linked in the description. Special thanks to our current patrons, Davey Peppers from Game Mechanics, Ryan Kolakowski from Ryan Plays Drums, Andy Phillips from Andy Phillips, and Jody Wright. Special thanks to our sound engineer, Jordan Smearman, and we will see you in a week. Bye-bye.